degrees. It's easy to take the valve covers off. Just a few size 10 bolts holding it. Doesn't take long. Might take an extra 15-20 minutes, but just do it. Because if you use an impact wrench on this, you run the risk of moving the camshaft. There's a size 10 that locks this gear onto the camshaft. If you're hitting that with an impact wrench, even if the belt's on, the whole cam on the inside moves independently of this gear for 30 degrees. When you're at 30 degrees, the cam locks onto this gear. It's got a 30-degree advance or retard on this gear, which you've got to be careful of. Even when the person is locking the gear, your assistant's locking the camshaft with a spanner, you'll notice that this whole gear will move 30 degrees independent of the camshaft. But don't worry about that. Okay. When you're doing the seals, take these gears off by the method that I've told you, by locking the cams and using a wrench, not an impact gun. When you're putting this gear back, this gear is a solid gear, it doesn't move at all. The knot pin and the cutaway on this gear here in the center will line up. If it has moved slightly, just move the camshaft with a spanner to get this to line up. This here hardly ever moves. I mean, that's running your crank and your pistons. It's heavy down there, so there's a lot of weight and pressure down there, so that won't move. But this one here, the trick to this gear here is where I thought I'd gone wrong with the timing. The cutaway, when you're putting on this gear, the whole gear must move. See this mark here? It must move towards, you see this, there's like a little sort of, just like a little model here in the front. It's almost like a cross. It's just like a part of the plate. It's part of the plate, it's a little thing there. Like an indentation sort of thing on the plate. This mark here must move 30 degrees and be roughly here. With all the oil pressure out, there must be no oil pressure in this gear when you're putting it back on. What you do is you put this gear on and you put the size 10 Allen key bolt. So you lock the gear, tighten it fully. Get your assistant again and tighten this bolt. But you must make sure that this locks fully to the left, about 30 degrees, about there. And when you turn it back, it must be locked fully to the right on this mark. You mustn't be able to move this gear this way to the right, 30 degrees, and then lock on this side, or 15 on this side, or 15 on that side. It mustn't, see, there's a play on this gear once it's locked. So it must, basically you put the gear on, it must move 30 degrees fully that way, the same mark, the TDC mark, and you turn it back, but it must stop on this mark. It mustn't go further. That's the exact correct timing on this gear. If it's moving 15 this way and 15 that way, and then if it's locking 15 there and locking 15 there, apparently that's okay as long as when you're putting the belt on, the TDC is there, TDC is there, TDC is there. But I would do it the way I done it because the car is running 100% now. Make sure it locks to there, roughly about there, same mark. But even if you're following the dots, it must be the exact same thing. If the dot was here and the dot was there, the dot must lock fully to the 30 degrees to the left and return here. The same on the bottom here, the dot must be lined up with the dot and the oil pump housing. Same on this side, dot lined up with talking about the marks at the top here. Whichever marks you're following, they must line up here. But on this gear, it must lock 30 to the left and 30 back. And lock exactly on the mark. Then only you put the belt on. Okay, so basically that's just what I want to tell you guys because I battled with that. But my marks were actually fine originally. Don't get other technicians involved. Ask them to help you with the timing because I had another guy assist me. He put this whole timing on this side, it was right, but this whole gear was like 45 degrees off. He said, no, I must advance the timing, that's why it's not starting. This was also off. He had set that off. The crank was lined up fine. Just follow the marks that the book tells you what I'm telling you, and the car will run 100 the same way it came in. Don't worry about the position of the camshaft or anything like that. If this mark here is going 30 and going 30 back, that means that your camshaft is in the right position. If it isn't doing that, just move the camshaft until it does what I'm telling you. Adjust the camshaft so this gear does what it's supposed to do. Okay, and then if the car still doesn't start, you may have a coil pack wire. I know with these cars, it's coil pack wires that go onto the coil packs, because it's got 3 coil packs, 1 coil pack for each cylinder. Okay, one coil pack runs 2 and 5, the other one runs 3 and 4, and the other one, well, the first one runs 1 and 6, the second one runs 2 and 5, and the other one runs 3 and 4, which are the center 2 pistons. Okay, that's how your ignition timing, that's all for your ignition timing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, basically that covers that, because I ran into a major headache with that, and I couldn't sleep for weeks on end. On top of that, eventually when the crank gear came from Japan, I put it on, the car still wouldn't start. I put everything back, the car still wouldn't start. And the reason for that was one of the coil pack, coming back to the coil packs, number 3 and 4 cylinder, I noticed when I was swinging it, okay, the car wouldn't start. I noticed the exhaust pipes, the 3 and 4 were cold. Because obviously you're swinging, there's combustion, there's spark. The 2 at the back were getting hot, warm, and the front 2 were getting warm. The center 2 were cold. So I checked for resistance and voltage on the center coil pack, and I was getting no voltage, in and out voltage. Because you can test the wires, you can just cut away with a little razor blade on the 2 wires that go onto the coil pack, and you must check that it's getting 12 volts in, and on the other, while the plug's on, switch your ignition on, don't start it, just have the ignition on, check for 12 volts coming into the coil pack and 12 coming out. The same one, if the car's not starting at all, and it may not be the center coil pack, but check on all the coil packs that you're getting in and out 12 volts. It's telling you that your coils are getting proper power. If you're getting 12 volts on one wire going in, and the other one's not getting 12 volt coming out, there might be something wrong with the coil pack. Or, see, in my case, the center one, when I was pushing the connector on the plug on the inside, the lugs were moving backwards, because the car is so old, the plug was so brittle, the plugs were moving backwards. So what I did was I broke the plug off and I connected them direct. I connected the lugs and the wires direct. You can do that. There's something inside the connector that will prevent them from touching. So just crimp them a little bit and connect them direct. But make sure that the right wire goes on the top of the coil pack, and the first lug or wire goes on top, and the correct one goes at the bottom. The top one is I know with the one I worked on, is all the top ones are the brown and black. The bottom one may be a red and black, or solid black, or solid red. But the top one is just follow the other, whichever coils you're doing, just follow one that's firing. But I know the top wire is a brown and black wire. Okay, thanks guys. I'll be covering another video on the GS300, but this time it'll be about the throttle body issue. There's obviously, through the years, there's been, I've known that the throttle body has given major problems on it, in the vehicle, failing at certain stages and going into fail-safe. I just want to cover a little bit on that, and that'll be in the next video, because that's another headache, the GS300 that I ran into. Thank you guys. See you soon. Take care.